Welcome to Stamps Old World UK, your trusted home for exploring the hidden history and modern-day value of classic stamps from around the globe. Today, we turn our attention to a remarkably rare and historically significant British revenue stamp known as the Matrimonial Cause Six-Pence. This striking blue design was issued during the reign of Queen Victoria, not for the purpose of mailing letters or parcels, but as an official government fee stamp used in the courts of the United Kingdom for divorce cases following the Matrimonial Causes Act of 1857. This transformative piece of legislation marked a turning point in British legal and social history by making it possible for ordinary citizens to obtain civil divorces outside the authority of the Church of England. The very existence of this stamp is a powerful reminder of that changing era, where legal reforms intersected with the evolving rights of women and the restructuring of marriage law. This makes it not just a collector's item, but also a symbol of Victorian society, legal evolution, and printing artistry. It features the dignified profile of Queen Victoria in a classical pose, surrounded by ornate Victorian typography and the words, Matrimonial Cause Fee, with a boldly printed value of 6d/6 Unlike postage stamps that saw mass circulation, these revenue stamps were produced in far more limited quantities and used only in specific court cases, making them especially rare in modern times. Today, in 2025, the collector's market for judicial revenue stamps such as this one is experiencing a renewed surge of interest. Collectors, historians, and investors are all turning toward niche, legally themed items that reflect unique corners of British imperial history. Depending on condition, presence of a watermark, perforation quality, cancellation marks, and overall presentation, a Matrimonial Cause Six-Pence stamp can range in market value from approximately $50 to $150 in fair to good condition when sold individually through online platforms like eBay, Delcamp, or specialized stamp marketplaces. However, stamps that are unused, exceptionally centered, or attached to original court documents with legible dates and names often sell for significantly higher amounts, sometimes crossing $250 to $400 or more, especially in philatelic auctions run by reputable houses such as Spink & Son, Grosvenor, or Warwick & Warwick. If the stamp is part of a full document set or accompanied by related judicial revenue stamps such as the Justice Six-Pence or higher denominations used for divorce fees, the collective value can exceed $600. Museum-quality examples have fetched even more depending on provenance and historical association. For collectors with a keen eye, certain varieties such as shades in printing, plate flaws, or rare watermarked paper versions can hold even greater premium value. Rare varieties are catalogued in specialized philatelic literature such as the Barefoot Catalogue of British Revenue Stamps or listed under Rare Finds in Stanley Gibbons' fiscal volumes. Because of the legal and social story behind the stamp, symbolizing the early struggle for civil liberties and the quiet bureaucratic mechanics of Victorian-era justice, it continues to attract academic collectors and social historians. They value stamps not merely for their monetary worth but for their historical testimony. In 2025, as the global collectibles market expands with increased digital access and interest from younger collectors in India, the United States, Canada, Australia, and parts of Europe, demand for these judicial and revenue stamps is growing steadily. Digital databases and AI tools now help verify authenticity, print detail, and historical context, making it easier to identify high-value examples. If you are holding one of these stamps, know that its value lies not only in its paper and ink, but in the legal legacy and scarcity it represents. Whether you're buying, selling, or simply preserving one in your collection, it's wise to ensure proper storage in acid-free mounts or archival folders to avoid fading, paper degradation, or accidental loss. Make sure to keep certificates of authenticity and expert opinions when available, as these can greatly enhance the stamp's future resale potential. If you ever come across a Matrimonial Cause stamp with historical legal documentation, signatures, or dates connected to notable court cases or public figures of the time, its value could rise exponentially. These items are of great interest not only to philatelists but to collectors of royal memorabilia, legal history artifacts, and Victorian social documents. Stay vigilant, keep learning, and most importantly, stay passionate about this extraordinary hobby where every stamp is a gateway into the past. Next up, the beautiful blue 2½ King George VI definitive stamp, a masterpiece of design that carries with it not only postal value but deep symbolic meaning tied to Britain's wartime resilience, post-war recovery, and national identity. This particular stamp, issued during the reign of King George VI, is instantly recognizable by its rich blue tone, the finely engraved profile of the king wearing the imperial state crown on the right-hand side, and a powerful pastoral image of horses plowing the fields on the left, a tribute to the strength and labor of the British people, especially during and after World War II. It reflects the ideal of rural perseverance and national unity at a time when the country was rebuilding and rationing was still a part of daily life. The inclusion of this agricultural scene is more than artistic, it symbolizes how the monarchy, the working class, and the land were all interconnected in the survival and rebuilding of the United Kingdom during one of its most challenging periods in modern history. Produced in large quantities as part of the definitive stamp series, this 2/1/2D value was primarily used for basic domestic postage and overseas surface mail. Despite its wide circulation, certain variations, watermarks, printings, and postmarks make some of these stamps significantly more valuable than others. For instance, stamps printed with different types of paper or slight color shifts are highly sought after by collectors. In today's philatelic market, particularly in 2025, a standard used example of this 2/1/2D King George VI stamp may sell for a modest value, often ranging from $1 to $5 depending on condition and cancellation, but unused mint condition stamps with clear gum can go for $10 to $20. However, there's more to this stamp than meets the eye. Collectors have noted specific varieties that command much higher prices. For example, the version with watermark variations, known as the Tudor Crown or St. Edward's Crown watermark types, can range in value from $25 to over $100 if well preserved. Blocks, pairs, or stamps attached to original postal covers with wartime or colonial military postmarks are even more valuable. Covers sent to Commonwealth countries, especially during the war years, can fetch upwards of $150 or more, particularly if they are documented with military or censored labels. In auctions held in the UK and internationally, especially those run by established houses like Spink, Stanley Gibbons, or Grosvenor, full sheets and rare errors of the 2/1/2D stamp have appeared occasionally, sometimes selling for prices between $200 and $500 when accompanied by expert certificates or provenance. Collectors are advised to look out for details such as misaligned perforations, color misprints, or double impressions, rare printing errors that can make even a common stamp extraordinarily valuable. In the 2025 stamp collecting market, there is growing interest in stamps that showcase royal history and wartime symbolism, and the King George VI series checks both of those boxes. As younger collectors and investors turn toward tangible, historic assets in uncertain economic times, demand for stamps from the 1940s and 1950s is rising steadily. The market for British Royal-era stamps remains strong, especially with renewed public interest due to anniversaries, documentaries, and exhibitions covering the life and legacy of King George VI, the man who led Britain through the Second World War and whose voice echoed strength in the face of adversity. If you own a 2/1/2D King George VI stamp, especially in mint condition or on wartime correspondence, now may be the time to re-evaluate its worth. Ensure your stamp is protected from humidity, sunlight, and acid contact. Store it in an archival safe mount or sleeve, and consider having it appraised by a certified philatelic expert, especially if it's part of a complete wartime letter or unusual cancellation. These small paper relics carry enormous cultural and historical value, and even common issues can become significant when tied to meaningful stories. Next up, the Matrimonial Cause Six-Pence stamp. This isn't just a piece of old paper with a price printed on it. No, this stamp carries the heavy weight of legal drama, personal pain, and sweeping changes in British society. It is a stamp issued not for the purpose of delivering mail, but for charging citizens a legal fee in the Victorian divorce courts, and today, it stands as both a collector's item and a window into the moral and judicial soul of 19th century Britain. Issued during the reign of Queen Victoria, the Matrimonial Cause Six-Pence stamp was part of a very specific category of British revenue stamps used for court proceedings under the Matrimonial Causes Act of 1857, a groundbreaking law that took divorce proceedings out of the hands of the church and placed them into the jurisdiction of the civil courts. This act transformed how divorce was handled across England and Wales. Before this law, obtaining a divorce required an expensive private act of Parliament, a privilege affordable only to the aristocracy. But with the introduction of the Matrimonial Causes Act, middle-class citizens could now access divorce through the High Court of Justice, though not without difficulty and certainly not without cost. And that's where the Matrimonial Cause stamp came into play. Printed in a rich royal blue color, the stamp features the elegant side profile of Queen Victoria, flanked by ornate scrollwork, crowned floral motifs, and bold text reading, Matrimonial Cause, and Sixpence. The denomination, shown as 60 on both sides of the Queen's portrait, confirmed the amount charged as part of the paperwork involved in these court proceedings. It's a rare example of a stamp that was not created for communication between people, but for charging them a fee during one of the most painful and personal legal battles of their lives, divorce. That connection between design and emotional gravity makes this stamp unique in both its purpose and its power. In today's market, the philatelic market of 2025, the Matrimonial Cause Six-Pence stamp has seen a slow but steady rise in interest and value. Unlike ordinary postage stamps, judicial revenue stamps were produced in far smaller quantities and often discarded after use. Their very nature, tied to court records, often glued to documents, meant that few survived in collectible condition. For this reason, well-preserved examples have become rare and desirable among specialized collectors. A use stamp, if cleanly removed from legal documents and retaining good color and clarity, can sell for $50 to $120. If the stamp is unused and in mint condition, the price can rise significantly, often into the range of $150 to $250, especially if the gum is original and the edges are sharp with no folds, tears, or discoloration. But the real value emerges when the stamp appears on original documents. A matrimonial cause stamp affixed to a divorce decree or court petition, especially one bearing dates, official court signatures, or a famous family name, can fetch anywhere from $300 to $600 or more depending on condition, provenance, and context. Some rare examples that include multiple judicial stamps on the same document, such as combinations of divorce court stamps, justice sixpence, and other legal revenue fees, have sold for over $1,000 at specialist auctions. These are not just stamps. They are primary legal documents. They are stories. The historical relevance of these stamps cannot be overstated. They are visual remnants of a time when Victorian society was beginning to confront the limits of its moral rigidity. They tell us how money, gender, law, and power intersected in the lives of ordinary people. Each of these stamps marks a real case, real lives affected by divorce in an era when leaving a marriage carried shame, stigma, and financial devastation, especially for women. That historical gravity makes them not just collectibles, but artifacts. Owning one is like owning a legal fossil from the age of empire, industrial revolution, and strict moral codes. In 2025, there's a rising wave of collectors who are moving beyond postage and exploring fiscal, revenue, and judicial stamps, precisely because of this deeper connection to society, law, and economics. These collectors are historians as much as hobbyists. The Matrimonial Cause Six-Pence stamp is a shining example of how revenue philately opens new worlds and offers untapped investment potential. The demand is growing particularly among collectors in the United States, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, where British legal traditions were exported and local equivalents of such revenue stamps exist, but none as iconic and visually memorable as this British original. If you're a new collector or someone who has come across this stamp in a family archive, estate collection, or antique shop, here's what you should do. First, examine the stamp for clarity, paper tone, and signs of cancellation or legal endorsement. If it's attached to a document, do not remove it. Keeping it on the paper can sometimes double or triple the value. Second, consider having it examined by a professional philatelic expert or getting a certificate of authenticity from a recognized revenue society. Third, protect it from light and moisture. Use archival-safe sleeves or frames, especially if you're displaying it. And finally, hold onto it or sell it wisely, because this stamp, though silent and small, carries the weight of law, emotion, and history. Here at Stamps Old World UK, we believe that philately is more than collecting. It's about telling stories that the world has forgotten. The Matrimonial Cause Six-Pence stamp reminds us that stamps are not just about kings, queens, or postage, but also about justice, reform, and the lived experiences of people long gone. Thank you for joining us on this journey into one of Britain's rarest and most emotionally resonant revenue stamps. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please give the video a thumbs up, leave us a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to Stamps Old World UK for more stories of forgotten treasures, rising values, and timeless stamps from Britain and beyond. Until next time, keep collecting with passion, and remember, every stamp is a story waiting to be told.